road safety and what it means inside of this period from Christmas into Carnival. We actually hope to go a little way back with Brent Batson, coordinator of the TTPS Road Safety Project. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
How was 2016 in terms of road accidents?
Well, first of all, we had over the what we call the holiday period. It was marked by two road deaths. One was in Tobago, as you know, with the community comfort patrol that involved the death of an infant, and the other one was on the M2 Ring Road. And that M2 Ring Road is creating a little bit of problems because historically it has been what we would call a black spot, accident black spot, where we've had multiple fatalities occurring on this roadway. So I know the Ministry of Works engineers are supposed to be looking at that roadway itself. But from a policing standpoint, without a doubt, still speeding is only made in contribute. I mean, I would say yes, the engineering parts are important, but you know, anyway, you can't really blame the road for everything that occurs there. So they're looking at some interventions such as milling some edges of the roadway. If I'm not mistaken, even traffic calming devices like speed humps, because it's becoming way too frequent. And this has created a lot of, these were secondary, I would almost call them, but these were former carony roads that have now become major arteries of a lot of the traffic as the villages that are built up because of the motorization. And of course, the level of skill that people are using on them is not necessarily in best practice, you know, especially speed, the 50-kilometer roads. You know, people still drive too fast on these roads. They're not designed for these speeds. They were already designed for bull cart type of roads where it's not really engineered with regards to geometric designs and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be a key part with regards to how they put in these interventions to try and save lives. We have done numerous roadblocks, as you all would know, you know, over the holiday period. Well, what is interesting, so the highway patrol, you know, in some of they arrested 7 persons for DUI. Not a high number considering the period, but what was interesting, and even in the road checkpoints, we found most of the people were compliant. If they did not have designated drivers, they were within the 35 micrograms of alcohol legal limit. And that's a good sign because it's all about, you know, prevention, and it's all about just doing the right thing. And we were proud of that. You know, people outside saying, well, how come the numbers are so low? It's because people actually seem to be getting that message. The speed message, well, that remains some more work to be done, without a doubt.
Getting the message of imbibing alcohol, do you think that is a function of maturity in society, or is it a function of the continued visible presence of the police?
Well, I think it's a combination of both, without a doubt. Enforcement and education still go hand in hand. But what we've been trying to achieve is, I always tell people, you want to always be on the left side of the problem, which is prevention. So if more education and more presence of chances of being caught seems to permeate society where people think that, well, all right, I'm not going to drink, not necessarily because I don't want to, but because the chances of being caught is so high, then the deterrence, the effect of the policing, road policing presence is doing what it's supposed to do to start that culture change. And those are the discussions that we want people to have, you know. Is it really worth it? No, it's not. There's no ticket. All right? It's arrest and you're going inside the jail cell with everybody else. So it's not something you really want to experience. Whereas persons, instead of trying to internalize it and say, well, I don't want to do it because it's not the safer choice, well, that remains to be seen. And that's what we're trying to change with our culture. That must be the default side. It just doesn't make sense.
So about 7 persons this year. What have previous numbers been like in a comparative
period?
So,
yeah, something we get, for example, a DO exercise, even with Sergeant Ramdani and his crew, they would arrest sometimes 23 people, 24 people in just a night exercise, you know, and that's 7 people over a 3-day period, you know, so it's not a high number compared to what we saw before. And this is not to say that people are, we get different reports, people say, well, the drunk drivers are using the back roads more, knowing that we're on the highways and more the main roads. And they will eventually fall into that net. So, you know, there will be exercises done to to try and get that. But it goes to show, though, they are afraid to go to those main roads as a result of that. But we're trying very hard. What was interesting in regards to the stats so far this year, and I always have to knock on wood because the year is not finished as yet. And we had that good example of that multiple fatal incident that occurred at O'Meara intersection where the driver ran the red light, you know, and the multiple deaths that occurred just because of a driver's decision goes to show how quickly a situation could change. We had one of the surviving passengers say, you know, he should have slowed down when the light changed to yellow instead of accelerate, you know. And we can listen to him and understand, well, he's now talking about a situation that could have been prevented if somebody just said, hey, don't do that. If passengers would just get a little bit more active with regards to how drivers are driving them and say, hey, no, cut that out. I'm not in here for that. You have a right to be driven in a safe manner. And people don't seem to stand up for that right, especially whether it's a PH driver, whether it's a legitimate taxi, whatever it is, stand up for that right. Because the consequence could be serious injury, paralysis, or death. And these are things you don't want to experience.
That brings into stark relief the responsibility of the person in the driver's in the passenger seat. Many times people say, okay, well, you're a passenger seat driver or a back seat driver. Do you think that has an aspect of what happens in the culture?
Well, I think some drivers take offense and take it very easily. They're wrongful and say, hey, you know, slow it down for me, please. No. I'm not trying to kill you, brother. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. And that's the problem. I know what I'm doing. A lot of these drivers, if you ask them just before they were either killed or killed other people, if they think they're a good driver, they're going to say, of course, I'm a boss driver. That's not the case. Arrival Live has been calling. I've been seeing Ms. Englefield's continuous requests for changing and upgrading, strengthening the licensing process. And that's going to be a key part. And from what I understand, it's one of the things that they're looking at through the amendment for the Road Traffic Act. It's funny you mentioned passengers because I was just looking at these statistics that came in here. And for the first time, passengers were now the leading class of road user death and exceeding drivers and exceeding pedestrians. And that's something we have not seen in years. And of course, it resulted out of the multiple fatality incidents where one crash resulted in the death of so many people, either in both cars or a single car. And hence the reason, again, where passengers have that right to intervene with regards to using the road safely and being driven safely.
At certain parts of the year, it seems as though we've seen speed guns more than other times.
Right.
Is there a reason for that?
Well, we're going to see, there are two things coming that I know. One is more training of more speed technicians. Just like any other organizations, you train persons, there's some sort of attrition. So we're going to be increasing the amount of speed technicians and hopefully the procurement of more speed equipment will come on board. So you will see that revamped presence coming up. Was interested in it, we've exceeded 11,000 speeding tickets. So when everybody say, well, they don't see the speed guns, we say the tickets don't reflect that. But with regards to it being staggered out across the country with these 6 guns, that's what really we're trying to work with the manpower or the amount of technicians we have. That's one of the biggest challenges.
I want to go back just to the black spots or black zones that you spoke about. Mm-hmm. How does a police presence deal with some of those zones?
Good question. So what happened is that any traffic and highway patrol branch is something called a road surveillance unit. And that was recently formed probably about 3 years ago. And what they do is very, very detailed analysis of the collision, what we call hotspot mapping, but for a traffic sense. So whereas the number of serious injury accidents are now tracked and mapped through a GIS system, and of course the amount of fatal incidents. So whereas we can say now, all right, through the hotspot policing concept, whether it's, and this is the question where it comes into lay whether or not it's an engineering issue or it's a behavioral issue. Because, for example, they would deploy the highway patrol units at these hot times when they know the fatals tend to occur, hoping that more static or presence would help deter behavior, which is not all the case because, like you said, some people will slow down in that spot and then speed up afterwards, knowing that they passed the enforcement zone. And that's something that comes over time. With the technology that is coming though, and this is what doesn't make sense to us, because those behaviors that people are continuously engaging in has to change. Because like I said, once these automated speed enforcement cameras go down, the police will have to, it's 24/7, 365 enforcement present. We're going to speed up in between cameras, go ahead. It's not going to make sense. Your ticket will come, your points will come. So why wait till all this comes? And it's already in the pipeline, the legislation.
Explain that for me, please. Tickets and points.
Right, sure. So with the amendment to the Road Traffic Act, there's currently a penalty point system. It's been changed to what they call a demerit point system, so that certain violations will now carry a very serious consequence to you as a driver's permit holder. And so let's just say, for example, dangerous driving carries 6 points, and you could get a maximum, 14 points will carry a license suspension. So that plus 2 more tickets can easily get your license suspended in 1 year. So it's causing people, well, I would say it should force people now to reflect on their behaviors, because if you're a taxi driver or a truck driver, this is serious consequences to your livelihood. If you're a person that doesn't like to travel or has no access to transport, this is going to affect you. But it shouldn't be the point where we have to now go that direction of very, very strict application of law, but it has to be done to save lives, because there's genuinely a deeper concern in the way people are using the roads very, very recklessly. And the consequences are to kill not only just pedestrians and other drivers and passengers, but themselves. So it's like they have no care for either endangering other people's lives, but they also seem to be lawless with regards to the application of general rules and regulations that apply to using a vehicle responsibly. And this technology is some of the things that will come into play to have a very, very meaningful consequence to the breach.
You're able to quantify alcohol in the system. You're able to monitor speed. How do you treat with an individual driving tired?
Right. It's funny you mention that, Mr. Ronson, because when I was coming up into Portisville this morning, a fella lost control of his Nissan pickup, and he ended up on the Beetham, cut a nice trail, almost reached the swamp, but he managed to, I think the mud stopped him from reaching the swamp. A couple of us stopped, and he fell asleep at the wheel. And it's a very tough thing to manage. To me, we consider the fatigue driver or the tired driver more dangerous than the drunk driver, because a lot of times they ignore warning signs, and once you fall asleep, there's total loss of control. It's not like you could reapply some brake, recorrect yourself, no, because a lot of people, when they fall asleep, they go into what is called delta sleep, and that's what they call REM sleep. It's a very, very deep sleep, and this is why a lot of times there's no control, and it's straight off the road into poles, into other vehicles, and so forth. So to manage fatigue, it requires people to be more conscious of how they feel. You get warning signs, but we just tend to dismiss it very early, whether or not it's frequent yawning, when it's a small dip or close the eyes. And I'm glad you brought it up, because coming into the carnival time where people drive from Cedros to Port of Spain for Fetton and drive back down, without thinking about how tired they are, it becomes one of the hardest areas for us to manage. Rest stops will be a good thing if we could start to build them into the highways where people feel that it's a safe place for them to stop and get some rest. But there is no substitute for sleep.
Is there work that you do, especially in this period, in terms of letting people know or trying education about the importance of getting rest? And this is both the individual who's moving from Cedros to the party, as well as the soca artist or the artist who is performing at all these joints.
Well, I remember when Arrive Live did a thing with the soca artists where they had drivers. They had supplied drivers for the soca artists. And the good thing now, a lot of soca artists do that now as standard. They have people to drive them. And for that same reason, the stress and the fatigue. But with regards to those driving long distances, I mean, we've had some of the iRoad Safe ads out, showing people some of the consequences and how easy it happens. Even with somebody talking to you, you could still sometimes doze off. And this is why we ask passengers, like I said, to keep awake. A lot of time, a sleeping passenger can infect a driver very, very easily. Once the cabin becomes very quiet, people say, well, wind on the window, drink some coffee, and these are very temporary remedies. but we've seen some success with regards to that a 9% reduction so far for this year. We were hoping for more, especially with the speed guns. We got that initial stage, but the recent multiple fatality accidents kind of pushed it back up. And we're really hoping that, I always say 2017, allows us an opportunity to reset, start again, reinforce what works, and more importantly, try to get the public more to buy in. We're hoping to have a iRoad Safe caravan together with Arrival Live and one of the insurance companies. And we'll be going into the different boroughs through this to invite schools in, trying to get a message and trying to send a message to change the culture to understand there's only one option, and that is to use the road safely. No in between that.
What goes into making a statement like Carnival 2016 was accident-free?
Right. Now, if you're talking about road accidents, we tend to quantify it more along the lines of road fatalities. Incident-free Carnival from a policing standpoint would be, no serious incidents and stuff reported. But that's a little bit, that's one is a little bit different. But it's something we always aim towards, you know what I mean? But it's a very complex and high-risk thing to manage, as you know, from all standpoints, whether it's transportation, whether it's just keeping the revelers safe. And being in it for 5 years now, it takes a lot for the TTPS to manage it, but they tend to do a pretty good job. We've had foreigners from Notting Hill police, British police, come to take a look at how they manage it and, across the country. But it's interesting because as more sections such as, good example, Carpet Traima, Shogunas Khan, so as Arima Khan, these are now bigger events, so it pulls more resources across the country, whereas before it was maybe Port of Spain, maybe San Fernando. Those are your big events. But now, with the different areas, it's more DUI risk to manage across the country. It's more people speeding, to go to parties to manage. The good thing is, and we want to encourage one time, because you're seeing it through the radio programs, I'm sure, big parties being advertised already, all-inclusives and stuff. And we encourage everybody to start to talk to your Maxi Taxi Association. They are willing to work out packages, to transport your people to and from these events. Talk to them, talk to a lot of the designated driver, the different people now starting up little businesses to offer these alternative transport systems, and it's something we need to look at.
If you're looking at how it is you allocate human resources during these periods, is something to pay a little more attention to, or the potential of giving traffic wardens a little more responsibility, at least during these periods?
Sure. Well, the traffic wardens under all legislation is actually different to like in the U.S. They have a bit more power, almost as full traffic enforcement. You need to have is the arrest powers like the police. That's the only thing different. But there are usually multiple joint exercises with them where they help with the traffic management so the police could focus more on the security aspects. And but they have been a huge assistance, with regards to the local law enforcement, regards to city areas and the boroughs and stuff where they tend to be deployed to.
Do you think that culture and perception of police is changing as with regards to traffic? Because many times someone sees traffic in a place that they don't normally see and they say, of course, well, police directed. Right.
Well, that's always saying when the light isn't working, or the police are present, that's where you get most of the traffic, right? But again, it makes a major difference, and we're trying to encourage the officers, once there's traffic presence, no matter if you're not attached to highway patrol or you're not attached to traffic branch, come out there and assist, because a lot of times just some basic things like the discourteous practice of blocking the junctions, so we really want all those yellow boxes painted back to remind people, once you block this intersection, you're clogging the road network. You're obstructing traffic from moving, so don't do it. It's discourteous. It makes no sense. Trucks still go across, half of the trailers still blocking the intersection, so the other traffic can't move. So everybody just needs to be a little bit more, to be cooperative, apply a little common sense. There's no place to go. You're approaching a green light, for example, and defensive driving, we say it's called a stale green light. How long has it been green for? Is it going to change? You don't know. So you can't be accelerating as if it's not going to change for you. You should be accelerating with common sense, coming off the accelerator, saying, well, there's a possibility it could change. you should start looking in your rearview mirror. How close is the guy behind you? To manage that risk on the roadway. Because in the end, you could only control yourself in your vehicle.
Where can we get a refresher course on some of these rules, laws, legislation?
Well, we encourage people to do, I mean, I'm a defensive driving instructor. The police have the driving school. The different insurance companies now offer these packages with defensive driving. But we the police standpoint, one in 2017 in the new strategic plan, one of our goals is to create a little, through the iRoad Safe program, defensive driving series. So you could go on the iRoad Safe Facebook page, pull on the videos from everything from how to inspect your vehicle, what documents require, proper overtaking procedures, and what the laws are, to just encourage people, especially young drivers who might have missed, or older drivers who forgot what these basic rules are. Come back home here, take a little refresher, and we make it a little exciting because young people do like long videos. It's interesting because when we were growing up, videos used to be 20 minutes. Now you have to get them in 1 minute, 30 seconds sometimes. So gonna keep it something that's user friendly, especially to appeal to the young people.
Do you see any other, you spoke about one, but do you see any other laws or legislations with regard to traffic driving on the horizon?
Well, the amendment to the Road Traffic Act that's coming is what I call culturally altering legislation. Like I said, that point system, the technology, the red light enforcement, it's so impactful that the Ministry of Works and Transport is actually now projecting an awareness campaign, a national campaign, because it changes the game. It changes everything on how you're going to use your road and the consequence for not using it in accordance with the rules. So there's hope on the horizon to that. The good thing is that last year we saw the largest reduction in road traffic deaths in over 15 years. With this 9% reduction, it'll go even further down. So it's moving in the right direction, not necessarily the pace we would like, because we always say the ultimate goal is zero because of how highly preventable it is, and we will continue to push towards that.
Thank you so much, Brent Batson.
Sure, thanks for having us.
TTPS Road Safety Project. And